first Hall of Fame inductee we're going to recognize tonight is Mr. Ronald B. Jarvis, who is being inducted tonight for his distinguished service to the Dunklin R-5 School District. At this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Bill Haggard from the Hall of Fame class of 2013.
It's a real honor to say a few words about Mr. Jarvis. We had him as an 8th grade teacher back in 1964, 65, and I feel very fortunate that we were able to have him as a teacher. Two of my classmates from that group, TJ Springmeyer and Pat Parsons back there, we were part of that class as well. I was asked to just do a little bit of the history, his educational history, and I'll do the best I can. He started in 1949 college and received an elementary education degree in 1951. His first teaching position was in Irondale, Missouri, teaching 6th grade. In December of �51, he entered the military, the United States Air Force, and would be discharged 4 years later, December of 1955. And at this time, I'd like to thank him for his service. He resumed his teaching career after he got out, after he was discharged at Irondale, and he served as a principal. He received a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's degree from Northeast Missouri State College in 1963. And then it began. In 1960, he started his career at Herculaneum R-5 School District teaching 8th grade, where he also served as the 8th grade basketball coach. In 1971, he became the first full-time principal at the Senn-Thomas Middle School, and I know some of his teachers are here that served under him. In '85, he retired from the Dunklin R-5 School District after 30 years in education, with 25 in the R-5 district. Now, with that said, when we had Mr. Jarvis for 8th grade, I believe he taught social studies and PE for the boys, maybe the girls too, but I remember the social studies. We were located in the basement of the old 2-story high school. We were kind of down there in that hole, so he was like a guardian for us down there in the high school as 8th graders. He was a great teacher and a friend to his students. He was a man of great character, compassion, and discipline. He was fair to all of his students, and he was always fun to be around. I felt like he treated us like his own kids. He was that type of teacher that students looked up to and respected. Mr. Jarvis was not only a great teacher, but the type of person that junior high students needed at that time in their lives. I am sure that the influence of Mr. Jarvis during those middle school years had a very positive effect on his students in later life. I truly believe he helped us become productive young citizens. I've always had tremendous respect for the teachers I had at Herculaneum, who took the time to educate us and in the process make our lives better. However, there are very few who stood out as educators, and Mr. Ron Jarvis is one of those very special few. So thank you for that. I don't know if he remembers this, but I was trying to think back those years, and I came up and I had these. Do you remember the current events that we did every year, every week? I was telling Pat back there a while ago that it seemed like all the way up to 8th grade, we did more geography, very little history. But when we got to the 8th grade in our current events, we became very aware of things going on in the country and in the world for that matter. And so I owe that, I really appreciate that he kind of piqued our interest in world events. And as I was looking through here, there's talking about presidential things, there's immigration, there's Vietnam War, and all these different things. So it was, I always saved these because I knew they would come in handy at some point. So, as I said in the beginning, I feel very fortunate to have been a student of Mr. Jarvis, and I just want to congratulate him on his induction. It's an honor that's greatly deserved.
this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Samantha Jarvis. As Samantha mentioned earlier, she's a 2016 graduate of Herculaneum High School and is the granddaughter of Mr. Ronald Jarvis.
Good evening, everybody. As he said, I'm Samantha Jarvis. I'm the granddaughter of Ronald Jarvis, and I'm honored to be speaking on his behalf for his induction to the Hall of Fame. I asked my grandpa what inspired him years ago to become a teacher and an educator, and he said, well, it was for the love of basketball. That's what got me here. So in 1949, he went to the Flat River Junior College, and that's when he played college basketball. And then he talked to his counselors and decided that he wanted to go into education. And his goal at that time was to be a coach and an educator. In 1950, Ronald was starting his second year of college, and that's when he met his wife, Ina Lou Ives. They were married December 31st, 1950, nearly 69 years ago, and they're still together today. In 1951, Ronald was hired by the superintendent of Frank Clay School District, and his name was Mr. Warren Black. And he was hired to teach the 6th grade. In December of that school year, Ronald was enlisted in the United States Air Force for 4 years. Ronald continued his education while he was in the service and went to Warrenton College and got some other intermediate education. When his duty was over, he finished his first year of teaching at Frank Clay in 1955. I know some teachers say their first year is really their longest and their hardest year, but I think his takes the cake. 5 years long, that's a long first year. Ronald continued to teach at Frank Clay, and during 8th grade, he was also the basketball coach there. He also took summer courses at Southeast Missouri State University and graduated with his bachelor's in 1960. In 1960, Warren Black, the same man who hired him from Frank Clay, was a superintendent at Herculaneum at the time. He asked my grandpa if he would teach 8th grade, and he accepted Warren's offer. While teaching 8th grade, Ronald took summer courses at Truman University in Kirksville, Missouri, and graduated with his master's in education in 1963. Ronald also taught 8th grade and coached basketball in the high school building for 10 years. It was this floor, the same floor, that he used to coach basketball on. We thought that was really cool. In 1971, he was appointed the first full middle school principal. His acquaintance Roscoe Brewington was the principal the first semester. Then Ronald took over right after him to serve for another 12 years, 15 years? How long was it, Grandpa? 14 years. But he was also asked to take additional schooling while he was the principal there. So while he was the principal during the daytime, he would go up to Washington University in the evening to take classes. He had enough credits for his PhD in education, but just didn't write a thesis. But that's a lot of schooling from 1949 to 1963. That's a long time for school. Many people remember my grandpa as an authoritative and compassionate figure. In his office, behind his door, were these handprints. Some people might know what I'm getting ready to say. Been there a time or two. And that's where they would place their hands right before they got hit with the Board of Education. That still hangs on their wall in their kitchen in their house today. Might have a little bit of duct tape around it. A little known fact is that the shop teacher made that for my grandpa, right when he became principal there. Anytime we were out and an old student would come up to him, out whenever we were out to eat or just anywhere, they'd always come up to him, give him a hug, tell him a good story, and sometimes they'd say, "You hit me with the Board of Education, but I deserved it." Ronald cared about each and every one of his students. In the summertime before school, he would write down every child's name on the blackboard and meticulously place each student in the right classes. Ronald went to all the sporting events, home and away, and wouldn't leave until every single kid was picked up. Ronald even drove the school bus during his time as a teacher and principal at Herculaneum. There are other countless stories that everybody can probably share with him that just goes to show how much time and dedication he put into the students and for the school district while he served at Herculaneum. Ronald retired from Herculaneum in 1985. Before he left the school, he had a farewell assembly in the new gym. The teachers also did a retirement party for Ronald, the retiring principal, and Imogene Caston, the retiring nurse. Imogene Caston is the grandmother of Ryan Caston, who is also being inducted this evening. Along with being a great principal, Ronald is a wonderful father to his 5 children, Rhonda, Jeff, Carrie, Rick, and Jenna, all of which graduated from Herculaneum. They also have 10 grandchildren. Some have went to Herculaneum through the years, but my brother and I the only to graduate from Herculaneum. After 10 years of retirement, Ronald opened up a business on his farm, Sandy Valley Sporting Place. He enjoys the company of his customers and his son, as well as their shared love for the hobby of sporting place. On behalf of the Ronald B. Jarvis family, we thank you and are very honored for his induction for the Herculaneum Blackcat Hall of Fame.
It is a great pleasure to present this trophy to our newest member of the Herculaneum Hall of Fame, Mr. Ronald B. Jarvis.